Do you want a tank that can fend off a foreign invasion? Or perhaps you might also want a tank that stands out from those T-72s. Or maybe, you just want a tank that damn well looks and feels amazing. Despite the obvious downsides that similar tanks have to it, it's probably one of the best at its tier. I present to you, the Soviets' T-64B. Alright, let's start this off. The T-64B sits at a solid BR of 9.3, which allows for some pretty good lineups. At this BR, you have the T-72A, which is a very good tank to have in this lineup as you aren't stuck with a single MBT. You can also bring the 2S25, which sits at 9.3 along with the T-64B. If you want some light tanks, the Object 685 and BMP3 only sit a bit below in BR, and still work at this BR very well. If you're fortunate, you might also have the BMP2M and BMD4, both being very good light tanks as well that work at the BR of 9.3. Finally, you can also bring the Chrysanthema S, which is an ATGM carrier at 9.3. This is a really long script, alright. On with the tank itself. Like most high-tier Soviet MBTs, the T-64B is armed with the 125mm cannon, specifically the 2A46M1 cannon. You have a pretty long reload at 7.1 seconds, however the benefit to this long reload is that you have an autoloader, so there is no loss in reload speed even if your crew is injured or knocked out. You also have a laser rangefinder, which is relatively standard around this tier. Like all Soviet tanks, you have barely any gun depression and underwhelming -6 degrees. This gun comes with the 3BM22 and 3BM42 APF SDS shells, both being pretty high performing. The 3BM22 has a max penetration value of 425mm, while the 3BM42 has a whopping 457mm of penetration. You can expect to get through most armor and deal considerable damage to most enemy tanks with these two shells. You can also bring the barrel-fired 9M112 ATGM, which is underwhelming due to its low speed and does not have many useful situations to be used in, but it can come in handy when fighting helicopters, but that is really all. As most stock MBTs sadly do, you'll be stuck with Heat FS, which isn't anything special, but it can still do some considerable damage. However, lots of tanks have ERA, and make your Heat FS even harder to use, so good luck with that stock grind. The T-64B has two machine guns, one being roof-mounted, which is a 12.7mm machine gun, while the other is a coaxial 7.62mm machine gun. The gunner sight has access to night vision along with the commander sight. The gunner has mediocre zoom, being 9x zoom, while the commander sight has an atrocious 5x zoom. However, this isn't much of a downside unless you really rely on the commander sight. The armor isn't anything special or unique compared to other Soviet MBTs near this BR. Your upper frontal plate is around 265mm of armor, being very similar to the T-72A's frontal armor. You can expect most enemy tanks to have trouble penetrating your upper frontal plate, however, most will go for your lower frontal plate, which is easily penetrated by everything at the tier, so don't go into an open field blindly unless you are into pain and suffering. Like any tank, the sides and rear are the weakest. Do not angle, as APFDS will shear through your sides. Like most Soviet tanks, your armor shines as a turret. You have over 500mm of armor for most of the frontal turret, with the exception being the armor close to and at the breech. Your crew is not lined up at all, so one-shot crew knockouts are not common, however, ammo blowouts are. Being a Soviet tank, you are a jack-in-the-box. Your ammo is in a carousel-type autoloader system, which will burn your crew to ashes, and famously, the turret will go into orbit. The first stage consists of 28 shells, but bringing under 20 should be enough. If you want to be special and perfect, you can bring 29 shells and 1 for the breach, 28 for the first stage ammo. If you get into a situation where you need to leave under fire, the 8 smoke grenades that launch into intervals of 4 will be helpful, and can definitely get you out of some tough situations. The T-64B also features an engine smoke system, which functions somewhat like smoke grenades, however it will leave some of your tank visible as it is deployed from the rear. There is a modification on the T-64B, which is designated T-64BV. This gives you Contact 1 ERA, making you have a small amount of extra protection against kinetic rounds, and a lot more protection against Heat FS shells. This ERA can definitely save you at times, but still should not be relied on. The T-64B has a 679 horsepower diesel engine, which allows for a max speed of 60 km per hour. However, in most combat situations where you will be swerving and going through mud, you can expect it to go about an average of 35 km per hour. Overall, turning when stationary feels a bit sluggish. However, it is still more than capable, and you can navigate through tight spaces with relative ease. Just don't expect something as maneuverable as the gas turbine tanks, such as the T-80B or M1 Abrams. The main downside to your mobility is reverse speed. Do not expect to get out of every situation by just holding S. It does not work, and will most likely be the bane of your existence, along with the terrible gun depression. Your horizontal turret speed is 17 degrees per second, which is pretty lackluster, but if you combine your mobility with the turret speed, you shouldn't have too many problems with it. In conclusion, the T-64B is a very solid tank. It still has the famous Soviet downsides that get you killed, however it is definitely an improvement from the previous T-64A. Its armor holds up relatively well along with its mobility. The firepower on the T-64B is where it shines. The 3BM42 and 22 both provide excellent penetration and will be devastating to enemy tanks on impact. I really hope you all enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. It'd make me very happy. If you want to be notified when a new video is released, hit the notifications bell. Leave any feedback in the comments, and I hope you all have a wonderful day or night. Viper out.